Welcome to At Home Yelp Virtual Book Fair. Also, not good morning if it's not morning for you. I'm here from Toronto. Thank you so much to Rachel Churcher from Taller Books for making this an incredible event for indie YA authors. It is so exciting to be attending an international event from the comfort of my own home. Also, thank you so much to Abigail Terrell for the previous reading of Roots Before Branches. That was super lovely. So a little bit about me before we get started. My name is Avi Silver. I'm a queer non-binary author based in Toronto. Please use they, them pronouns when referring to me. I am also one half of the Shale Project, which is a multimedia storytelling initiative roughly in the shape of a planet. Essentially, my wonderful partner, Sienna Tristan, make sure to give them a follow. And I build a world, a beautiful secondary world, where we tell stories in as many ways as possible. So that's done through books, like full novels, novellas, short stories, and even music, art. So we do this all with the philosophy that storytelling should be daring, world building should be innovative, and art is medicine. So you'll find a lot of sort of healing themes in our work and explorations of marginalization, given the marginalizations that we all live with. So the first book that came out through Shale was The Heretic's Guide to Homecoming, an adult fantasy novel that I often describe as a mental health narrative disguised as a fantasy novel. Super wonderful, slow burn, good for the heart. And last year, we followed up with Two Darkmoons, which I'm going to be reading from today. I have that little guy right on here. So, hello. Two Darkmoons is, I call it a queer YA fantasy. Not just because it features queer characters, but because it features themes that I think are involved in a lot of people's experience with being queer. So basically this book, thank you so much. The cover is by Haley Rose. I think she's still at Catfish on Twitter. Unbelievably talented. This story sort of follows three things that I love: giant lizards, fantasy astrology, and non-binary joy. So your basic premise is that there's a girl named So Ming Parr who is throwing a real fit. Because of a tragedy that struck her community, she was unable to complete the coming of age ritual that would allow her to enter adult spaces and be treated with the respect that she is very confident she deserves. But when she ends up dramatically separated from her mountain home and trapped in the jungle, scared as heck, she ends up finding a strange human named Hay, who runs with a colony of giant lizards known as the Salmi. And together they sort of need to negotiate their relationship, understand each other, and sort of figure out how to live together. This story features things that I love, such as found family, and I guess we could call it a fake married trope if being lizard married is what's going on. In terms of representation, you have an aromantic bisexual protagonist and a non-binary protagonist who's quite neurodivergent, which is very important to me as well. So that's what I'm going to be reading from today. It's the first book in the Songy Cycle trilogy, which is still in the works, Brighter Life. And the piece I'm going to be reading for you comes just a little bit into the book after So Ming has quite literally fallen from her mountain home of Ateng and realizes that she is not alone. All right. The feeling struck So Ming first in the gut, a prey instinct activated. The hum of stony click suddenly sounded very close and very far at once, a sign that it was coming not from one being, but many. The volume grew sickening, punctuated by the beating of wings and the screech of fleeing monkeys. The roar that broke through the jungle was a sound So Ming had heard many times in her nightmares. She felt it like the tearing of a cuticle. She looked around desperately, suddenly alert with primal fear. What did she have? Some rope, a basket full of smashed eggs, a ring that she was apparently willing to die for? She gritted her teeth, grabbing a large stick off the ground, feeling stupid in advance for all the good it would do her. The humming died down. The silence that came over the clearing was almost worse. It was torture to anticipate her own death. Desperately, she tried to believe that perhaps nothing was there, that she had made up the danger in her own delirium. Then they were upon her, and there was nothing left to deny. The Salmi, like gargantuan salamanders slung low to the ground, their leathery skin night dark and pebbled, Their flat faces were crowned with pointed head spines, and they had eyes like oracles, deep green and sour yellow, with pupils that were terrifying in their intelligence. The bright stripes along the sides of their thick necks led up to the main event. 2 rows of tiny, pointed, glistening teeth, competing in fright factor only with the large sable claws that decorated all 6 of their powerful legs. Their tails flicked and whirled, hitting the ground with heavy thumps. Somengkar had hoped never to see a Sangi up close in her life. It had been bad enough from far away when the bridge fell. The predator's calls, the weeping of the moon back in the caves, the sick snap of rope as everyone on the bridge was lost. She clutched her stick uselessly, stumbling backward as more and more eyes blinked open in the jungle, so many of them, silent until they chose not to be. The largest of the Sangi stepped forward so suddenly that she cried out on instinct. The beast tilted its head, exposing a bumpy neck with purple stripes before making a noise back at her, flicking its blue tongue between its teeth. Someng's back hit a tree. Was it mocking her? From behind the large Sangi came another, smaller and quicker, with bright green throat stripes. It nudged the large one with a series of chattering clicks and growls, tapping its claws as it stared hungrily at Someng. Without thinking, she reached for her basket, tossing it at them, wondering if she could distract them long enough to run. The smaller Sangi took notice, leaping upon the basket and devouring it whole. The crunch of the weaving made her feel sick. If only she had the silver tongue plant, like the warriors carried. If only she had fallen while on guard duty, equipped to protect herself. If only she hadn't fallen at all. If only she hadn't been in so much trouble. If only she had been nice to her brother, helpful to her grandmother, deserving of her parents. If only her name were actually Somengkar. So many ifs, and none of them able to save her. The small Sangi was finished with the eggs and hungry for more. Someng raised her weapon in shaking, stinging hands and yelled, imprinting her furious indignance on the world around her with all she had left. And the Sangi was encroaching, and the growling and the shrieking got louder, and despite her best efforts to go with grace, all she could think was, God, this her night, no one deserves to die like this. Then there came another sound. It was different from the rest, a growl sized for a smaller throat. The Sangi were undeterred. A smaller green-striped one crouched low, pulling its shoulders back in preparation to leap. Someng braced herself for impact, but the sound cut through the forest again, a shriek, a howl. The creature it came from bounded fearlessly toward the Sangi, vaulting over the largest one's head and landing in front of it with another splitting cry. It was human-sized in shape, but its body was covered in scales and its claws— Wait, no. She blinked, realizing what she was seeing. A human being, clothed in Sangi skin, yelling with all the fury of a newborn child. The large Sangi yielded, bowing its head to peer at the defying creature that stood before it. The smaller snuck to the side, ready to lunge at Someng, but the human intervened, their voice storm wild. The animal screamed back, and the human mashed it once more, stretching their body to a strange contortion that made them appear larger. Sensing an opportunity, Someng stepped back, but the pack took notice, rumbling warnings in eerie unison. The human turned and glared at her with eyes that very nearly matched those of the Sangi. Their expression stopped Someng in her tracks, leaving her uncharacteristically speechless. The human hissed, glancing between the mean-looking Sangi with the green stripes and Someng. They clenched their fists, claws hooked over their fingers, curling and uncurling in graceful indecision. And they turned to Someng with an arch in their back that made her feel horribly hunted. I'm not, she started, but the human silenced her with a series of low, menacing clicks. Someng gripped her stick, ready to strike, but then the human started dancing? At least, that was her best guess. They leapt around Someng in a series of dramatic gestures, making impossible-sounding noises. They hopped and crouched and crawled, and the whole time the Sangi watched in perfect stillness, making no move to encroach further on Someng, which was more than fine with her. That is, until the human rushed in and bit her hard on the neck. Ah! She shouted, swatting at them, but they had already yanked back, grimacing. What under the god's eye was that? Me saving your life, the human snapped, roughly pushing back the tooth-lined hood to reveal their face in full. The striking green of their eyes was emphasized by charcoal makeup that had been smeared from their eyebrows to their sharp cheekbones. Their hair was nearly as dark as Someng's, but hacked artlessly short. Though they weren't much taller than she was, their glowering presence made Someng feel like she was being loomed over. You bit me, Someng squeaked. I had to. They grumbled out a few more nonsensical noises. Someng opened her mouth to start yelling, as was her right, but they shut her down with another glare. It's part of the The courtship ritual. I marked you as a mate so the colony wouldn't eat you. You're welcome. And just like that, they turned on their heel, stalking furiously toward the Sangi, who had become surprisingly docile. The purple one batted at them with one of its mid-legs, but rather than drop to the ground in terror like any reasonable human would do, they shoved off the touch, growling in what sounded like exasperation. The Sangi chirped, then the others echoed it. Sorry, no, what? So-Ming stumbled forward, hesitating as she passed the creatures that were now peering at her innocently, the same creatures that had been hunting her 5 minutes ago. She swallowed her fear, letting herself be carried by adrenaline alone. No, I think I need more of an explanation than that. What you need is clear rainwater and some spice fruit before you turn into a walking infection. And seeing as you're now my problem, I would appreciate it if you cooperated. Your problem? So-Ming was feeling a lot of different ways, and none of them were cooperative. I don't even know what just happened. Those things were stalking me, and then you popped out and screamed at them, and you bit me. I already told you I did it to save your life, the human retorted, shoving an enormous Sangi tail that kept trying to curl around their waist. You know, it wasn't great for me either. I don't even know you, and that's not how I wanted to. Ugh, just come here. Mama can carry you. You're in no condition to even be standing. Mama? The human let out a high click, nodding to the large purple Sangi with a ridged throat. It flattened its head to the ground, seemingly in response. So-Ming stared in wonder, all of her instincts reduced to so much babbling noise. Or maybe it was just the blood loss. Or shock. She was probably totally in shock. Who are you? She asked. Her options for survival may have been limited, but that didn't mean she was about to follow this freak completely in the dark. Just hook your leg here. Mind her cheeks. No, but who? So-Ming stumbled on her bad ankle. Before she knew it, the Sangi mama's snout was nudging her. She flailed back, and the human hissed in frustration, taking her roughly into their arms. The pressure on their side made her yelp. Mama rumbled, pupils narrowing on the human. In response, they chirped, looking uncertainly at So-Ming before pressing their grimy cheek to hers. Nope, no way. If you bite me again, she muttered, squirming away to the best of her ability, I swear on both the gods and my grandmother. The human ignored this, hoisting So-Ming up between Mama's fore and mid-legs. They settled in behind her, their strong arms firm around her waist as they grasped the Sangi's neck. Then the pack was moving, faster than So-Ming's body was ready for. She scrunched her eyes shut, willing herself not to be sick again. Several sharp somethings dug into So-Ming's back, the small Sangi teeth that were sewed onto the human's hood. Despite herself, she slumped against them. Can I at least have your name? I'm So-Ming Parr, by the way. Thanks for asking. The human uttered another chirp, this time followed by 3 clicks. The Sangi repeated it among themselves, a strange chorus barreling through the woods. Great trick, mumbled So-Ming. But seeing as you're apparently my mate and all, I figure I deserve to know. That was it, the human said, humor and annoyance tinging their words in equal measure. Okay, let me rephrase. Give me a name I can actually pronounce, one that might give me an idea to what sort of mate I am apparently the proud new owner of. After all, without a phasal association or any introductory pronouns, So-Ming had no idea where to even start gendering this stranger beyond the respectful neutral. What an absurd problem, she thought distantly. What a ridiculous thing to worry about after the day she'd had. The lull stretched between them long enough that So-Ming was confident she wasn't going to get an answer. She turned her attention instead to the verdant jungle, with its slim saplings poking boldly out of the understory, dwarfed by leaves as large as her whole torso. A great web of vines stretched out high above, reaching farther than she could see. The colony traveled at a solid pace, crossing over bubbling creeks and weaving around enormous trees, their great claws crunching the detritus of the forest floor. Eventually, the movement lulled So-Ming enough that her eyes drifted shut. Hey, the human said, stirring her from her rest. My name. Hey. Call me Hey. It was almost nothing to work with. No hint of phase or gender in sight, but So-Ming could say it, and that was a start. Fine, she mumbled. Hey. With the single question answered, her mind's racing slowed to a shamble, and she allowed her body to relax as much as it could atop the roaming body of Ateng's greatest enemy. Yay! And that's where we're gonna pause. So this is our meet cute, I guess. Not super cute. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Oh, there's all these wonderful questions. So yes, hi everybody. Colton. Yep, this is Two Dark Moons. So I have from Josh, how much research did I do before writing? This is a funny story. There were certain things that I researched pretty hard, being, a big world builder. And then there were a few things I didn't research at all and ended up having a big crisis with at the end. One key component of this story is the lunar system, where there's 2 moons, and the entire culture that Someng is from bases everything on the movement of the moons, your gender, your role in society, all of it. It's all assigned by what's in the sky. So there ended up being a lot of astronomy research to be like, okay, how far would the moons be? What would they look like? What would you qualify as a phase when there's 2 of them? How close to the planet can they get before they crash into it, or how far away before they just fling off forever? So that was quite a bit of research that I ended up doing. I also, since this sort of starts with a pretty dramatic fall from a mountain, I spent a lot of time calling my brother, who's in med school, asking how I could feasibly maim someone without accidentally killing them. So it was a lot of logistical things, I think. And then when it came to the biology, that was sort of a last minute, wait, giant salamander creatures with cheeks like hamsters, is this viable? And it is enough. It's fantasy. And then, so from Rachel, what inspired the setting for Two Darkmoons? I really like the rainforest. I love jungles. I love different things. I read a lot of fantasy where you get, your classic sort of European fantasy thing going on, which is, wonderful when done well, but I like to try different things. And I wanted to be, mindful of like, what was my face to write about? What wasn't okay? And I thought for the setting, I want to think about ecology a lot and let culture kind of grow from there. And so I went for a setting that was nothing really like what I'm used to. And just had a little bit of a fun escape from the cold of Canada to be in the lovely jungle. And then what would my Sangi name be? So, well, it depends, because there's a lot of Sangi sounds, lots of clicks and growls, which I can do. I can do a couple of them here and there, but I haven't thought about what mine would be. But Little Chompy would probably be it now, because I'm very small and I like to bite, and biting is a key component of lizard culture. So I would say Little Chompy, DJ Little Chompy is in the house. So I'd say that's probably what I'd have there. Yeah, it's a lot of fun sort of researching and world building and seeing what's practical. Oh, favorite author, favorite book. That's a very hard question. I already plugged my partner's book because that's what I love to do. Right now, I am... Oh, that's like such a difficult question. I read This Is How You Lose a Time War by Amal El-Mutar and Max Gladstone recently, and I just cannot stop thinking about it. It's an epistolary novel, just letters back and forth between 2 enemy agents on either side of the time war. The writing is beautiful. I cried so much. It's really a stunning novella. You can do it in a day as long as you're ready to just have feelings for the rest of the week. But favorite authors, that's very challenging. Another series where I'm constantly excited for the next coming book would be Fonda Lee's Greenbone Saga. It's described as like a gangster movie meets a martial arts movie with Magic Jade. It's a big family saga, and the writing really inspired me. It's absolutely nothing like what I'm writing this time around, but it's some of my favorite writing. Do I write every day? Not anymore, but I didn't before. Yeah, I don't necessarily. I try to think about writing every day because butt and seat time is important time. Knocking out words is important time, but especially since the world broke, I've had a lot of times where I'm just not feeling it. And so I count the times where I'm lying in bed and I can't sleep, and I go, okay, let's just redirect your thoughts from your anxiety about the world into a story. And I count those hours as writing hours, I'd say. And that way, psychologically, I'm writing every day. But yeah, when it comes to words on pages, it's slowed down, and I'm feeling okay about that. Actually, I think that's okay. I don't want to write King Lear, so it's not going to get written. So I'm tanking this tea. It's that thing you don't realize that when you've been talking for a half hour, everything stops. What's my current favorite thing? Favorite thing. That could be this tea, Black Dragon Pearls. And then my favorite place to write. My favorite places to write used to be a bunch of coffee shops in the city. I live in Toronto, by the way. So the coffee shops I'll shout out. I loved Boxcar Social. It was really wonderful. Istanbul Cafe, really good. Cafe Paminar. So I love them all, and I hope they're doing well. Right now, I have a few different spots in the house, depending on what kind of writing I'm doing and where my focus is at the time. I have ADHD and need a lot of change and stimulus. Otherwise, I'm like a husky. If you don't take me for a walk, I will eat your couch. Am I in a writing group? Yes, sort of. Me and my partner, we used to host a weekly writing group at our house. Now we don't. So we have a server with a few friends that we jokingly call Art Prison, because when I married my partner, who's a very dedicated creator, someone said, I feel like that would be like being in art prison. And you know what? It's a good life sentence. So it's a place where we can all encourage each other to write, focus on different things that we need, and kind of inspire each other. But it's very much about just like group accountability, as opposed to like holding each other to deadlines. Though I also love those friendships with people where we really like hold each other to it and motivate each other, because writing can be a really lonely thing sometimes. And I think working with other writers and talking to them, especially whatever stage you're in, whether you're drafting, editing, or if you're choosing to query and look for agents, it's very, very important. When did I start writing? I've been writing since I was very little. It's always been something that I like to do a lot. I did a lot of poetry when I was a teenager. And then I sort of fell out of that. And then I went to school, which made me write less. And then I graduated and when I'm a grown up, what do I do? And I went, oh, I can write again. So that's been a lot of that. And my current goals with writing right now is to be writing what's making me happy. Right now, I'm not currently writing YA. I'm writing something that's a little bit more adult, having fun with a kind of raunchy romance thing that I started doing because I needed a little bit of a break, actually, from the sequel to this guy. I had started it before the pandemic, and once that began, I found a lot of things changed for me. So I'm allowing myself some time to step back so I can return to it with sort of a more open heart. And just write things that I think are really fun and self-indulgent and silly, because why are we writing if we're not having fun? Oh, I also see we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. So I can probably take one more question. Before I do, if you like this reading or if you hated it, I can tell you what to do. Please feel free to pick up a copy of Two Darkmoons, preferably from your local indie bookstore. If you're in Toronto, we have it stocked at Glad Day Books and Baka Phoenix Books, two amazing bookstores. If you are anywhere else in the world, support your indies. If at all possible, give them a call. Many places are doing delivery. Indie bookstores are incredible. They hand sell your work. They get to know you. They have relationships. They are so caring, and we want them to survive this moment. It's very important. If for whatever reason an indie bookstore is not accessible to you, it's available at all retailers. But yeah, that's what we've got. Also, feel free to give the Shale Project a follow. Welcome to Shale. I believe they're playing around right now on Twitter. You can find out all the updates about the planet and the book and us in general, and have a good time. So up next, we have Lisanna Langston, who's going to be reading from Gobbledy. You can find them at Gobbledy14 on Twitter. So thank you again to Rachel at Taller Books for putting on this incredible event. It's so wonderful to see so many indie YA authors get together and share and be excited about, our writing in this time and in all times. So tune on in. Lisanna is going to be starting in about 5 minutes or so. And otherwise, stay safe, enjoy your time, have a great weekend. And if you have any questions, you know where I am on Twitter. Have a great day, guys.